man is back.
Oh, okay, boys. Oh my gosh, the man got that stuff.
This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But look at that, my God.
This is your boy.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This is your boy Dash, the True Inferno. Back at it with another Call of Duty Black Ops 7 commentated video gameplay for you guys. It's the first one of the new year, so happy New Year's to everybody. In case y'all wondering how I've been doing, I've actually been doing good. Despite the reason why I took the break, the new year, the year rather, 2025, and then on a high note, I got some stuff done that was very important to me, and it carried over to this year. So far we had a great start to the new year. We as in me, that is. So there you go with that. So that's the update. We're going in me, myself, and I. But let's get back to the video. So even though we are in the new year, we still got to look back at the previous year. So I came out earlier in 2025, really at the start of 2025, my most anticipated movies of the year, and I think I only named like 5 or 6, to be honest. However, I ended up with 11. I've seen 11 movies, and we're going to look at my top 10. So yes, there's an honorable mention, but we're going to look at my top 10 movies of 2025. And we're going to start off with number 10, Captain America, Brave New World. Okay, so this joint came out on February the 11th. And this was done at the TCL Chinese Theater, but it came out in the United States 3 days later. So, and obviously this was under Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. So obviously we're talking Marvel Studios. That's the production company. It was distributed by Walt Disney, that is. So what's the deal with this movie? So I'm not going to go over the plot because this is a long plot, but basically what ended up in this, like, what ended up happening was this. So Theodore Roosevelt was elected president of the U.S. and he sent Sam Wilson at this point, who is the new Captain America, and Torres, I don't know how you pronounce it, it's Joquan, who is now the new Falcon. And that's another issue that I have with this movie. So basically they went to stop an illegal sale of classified items started by Sidewinder and his mercenary group Serpent. So, and then basically it led to the emergence of the Red Hulk, who was obviously Theodore Ross in this case, and Bucky Barnes made a cameo in this movie as well. Now, here's the thing that I didn't like about this movie, and it is the following. The story was good. It was not the best, obviously. The main villain purposely got caught. That made no sense to me. That made no sense at all. There was no explanation of how we got a new Falcon. So maybe there might have been a show that was only on Disney Plus. I don't know. I don't recall that happening, but I didn't like that at all. And it felt like one big teaser, even though it wasn't presented like a teaser. So that's what this movie felt like to me. So yeah, there you go with that. That's my thoughts on this movie right here. But it was still good nevertheless. It made top 10 of 2025. Let's move on now to number 9. Lilo and Stitch. Okay, so this is basically the, what is this? The live action version, I guess you want to call it that. So this joint was distributed by Walt Disney Studios again, and it was produced by, or the production company involved was Walt Disney Pictures and Ryback, which is interesting. Okay, not the wrestler, by the way. And this joint came out on May the 17th at the El Capitan Theater, but it came out 6 days later all throughout the United States. So if you've seen Lilo and Stitch, the original movie, the animated movie, that's basically this. That's basically this right here. And I'll be honest, it was surprisingly good. Cause I didn't expect this to be good at all. I thought it was going to be meh or slightly above meh, but it was surprisingly good. There was a few issues in there, but they were minor. And there was some parts of the movie that almost got me, that almost emotionally got me. But again, the key word is almost. Now, this was one of Disney's best live action movies that they have done. They had done plenty, and a lot of them kind of missed the mark. This is one of those rare exceptions where it was actually not bad. Actually, it wasn't bad at all. So it's on Disney Plus right now. If you haven't seen it yet, I would say watch it. If you got Disney Plus, I would say watch it. Now, this ain't a reason to go get Disney Plus. I'm not going that far. However, what I will say is it is a good movie. If you have Disney Plus already, you haven't seen it, I say watch it. Even if you've seen the animated version, the original animated version, still go see this anyway. Okay, let's move on to number 8. Now you see me, now you don't. This one was interesting. So this joint came out November the 11th at the Harbor Club Amsterdam, and then 3 days later came out all throughout the US. So the production companies involved were Summit Entertainment, Cohen Pictures, and Secret Hideout. And I can't talk. It was distributed by Lionsgate. So what this movie was about. So first off, there was 3 of these. I think this is the third one, if memory serves correctly. Either it's the third one. Yeah, it's the third one. It is the third one. So there's 3 of these. I had no clue this was a thing. Not at all. So the first one came out in 2013. The second one came out 2016. So I need to watch those 2. And they're working on the fourth one, even though we don't have an exact date in terms of when the fourth one will drop. But in those first 2 movies, it was a squad of 4 who were horsemen, but they were also magicians, and they were it kind of like got up a Robin Hood theme, so to speak. Like they rob from the rich to get to the poor type of thing, although they don't give to the poor. But basically, they go around, use their magical abilities to bust bad guys. Well, 10 years after that, because they broke up. So now we got 3 young illusionists who are impersonating the horsemen using deepfakes and holograms to drain and corrupt cryptocurrency exchange owners' wallet and share the stolen funds. And then they were approached by, the foreman of the horsemen, who reveals he was sent by the Eye, which is a secret society of magicians, via a tarot card to recruit them for a mission to steal the largest diamond called the Heart Diamond from Veronica Vandenberg, the head of a South African diamond company formed by her late father that provides money laundering services for criminals. Meanwhile, Veronica receives a phone call from a man who threatens to expose her crimes unless he delivers the diamond to him, which is interesting. So basically what ended up happening was this. The Eye went on to recruit the other members of the Horsemen. So the Horsemen got back together. Now, apparently, they have broken up on bad terms. I have not seen part 2. I had no clue part 2 was a thing prior to this movie. So, very interesting stuff right there. So now, the Horsemen decide to, let's put our differences aside. Let's work together. And let's go steal this diamond with these 3 young wannabe horsemen. And there was a 5th horseman too, apparently. So she got involved as well. And then at the end of it all, they exposed her. They got the diamond. And there was one interesting twist, actually. There's one interesting twist, which is, do I want to say is one of my main issues? It's not one of my main issues. But while the twists were being presented, another issue, a separate issue, was going on that I have issue with. And I say the word issues a lot. So here's what happened. So basically, let me fast forward to the end of the movie real quick. So she got the diamond. So basically, she was at some presentation involving a Formula One car. So she's at some presentation. She got the diamond, and she was arranged to meet the unknown caller at her vault. So she arrived at the vault, takes a gun from a guard, and she discovered that the unknown caller, the guy who was like, "Oh, if you don't give me the diamond, I'm gonna expose you," was one of the 3 illusionists, which was shocking. But he is revealed to be her half brother, because there was a story from the movie about her half brother dying and stuff like that. But comes to find out, he's actually alive. So he revealed that his mother car's brakes got cut, but she saved him with her last breath. Veronica apologized and handed Charlie, that's his name, the diamond before, quote unquote, shooting him. However, Charlie faked his death with a bullet catch trick, revealing that Veronica had been firing brakes. And the walls falls open to reveal a horseman stage with a live audience. Charlie reveals himself as a Vandenberg and as the true mastermind who enlisted the horseman by posing as the Eye. So he was the one who was doing all this. So he's the one who got the horsemen together. He's the one who hit up Veronica Thompson, "Yo, I need the diamond, otherwise I'm gonna expose you, blah, blah, blah." So all that was going on, but he was the guy, which was very interesting. And he was seeking to exact revenge for his mother's death, and that Veronica has been secretly transported to the stage under the guise of a fake sandstorm. Now, and here's the part where I have an issue with this movie. Veronica, who was perceived as like a public figure, so to speak, because, she got a company, she got a lot of money and all that stuff. She was all of a sudden arrested by the authorities, and Charlie plans to bring her clients to justice and return their proceeds to the people of South Africa. Then this is where my issue come to play. Once upon a time, throughout this movie, the magicians were wanted criminals, but because of, I don't know how, but they just all of a sudden became unwanted, and the main villain went from aiding the cops as a public figure to being arrested so quickly. And I'm like, there should have been more to that. They should have been like more to say, oh, the wanted criminals are really the good guys and Veronica was really bad guy. There should have been more went into that and to explain that to the public eye and to explain that to the cops outside of them popping up on stage saying, yo, so here's really what's been happening and stuff like that. Because the fact that the people really accept Charlie as a Vanderberg was like, what? All you gotta do is say it and people would believe it? Like, you gotta have some proof behind that. So that's why that's the only issue that I have with this movie. Otherwise, though, it was a good movie. It was a really good movie, if I do say so myself. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Superman. Y'all know Superman was gonna be in the list, but y'all may be shocked to see it this far down on the list, but we'll get more in that second. So, this joint was produced, or the production companies involved were DC Studios, obviously, the Troll Core Entertainment, and the Safran Company. And of course, it was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. So this joint came out July the 7th at the TCL Chinese Theater, and then 4 days later came out all throughout the US. So, what's the deal here? So, basically, this was not a telling of how Clark Kent became Superman. At this point, Superman was already existed. Superman already have a reputation. Superman's already out there. People are aware of Superman. So basically, he stops the nation of Moravia from invading the neighboring country, Johannesburg, how you pronounce that place, and warns one of Moravian's president, Vasil, to leave the other country alone. Now, he is defeated back in Metropolis for the first time by a metahuman called the Hammer of Moravia, which is interesting, and flees to the fortress society in Antarctica with the help of his super dog, Crypto. So yeah, we finally get it. I think this is the first Superman movie where Crypto actually shows up, which I'm like, okay, I'm not losing sleep if it's there or not, but whatever, it is what it is. And then, of course, Lex Luthor created Ultraman, which is his own version of the metahuman. Now, in this movie, we also had, obviously, Lawrence Lane. We got Green Lantern. We got Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl, who are the Justice Gang. And basically, what ended up happening is Lex Luthor turned the public opinion against Superman, and to the point where he more or less is like under arrest and stuff like that. But at the end of it, and then Lex Luthor was kidnapping people and sending him to a black hole that he's manufactured himself. But he didn't really have that much control over it because starting to lose control, starting to destroy rather Metropolis. However, and then not to mention, there was that war going on as Luthor was a part of that as well. So basically, there's two things going on here. This black hole was about to destroy Metropolis, and there was a war that was about to break out between Moravia and Johannesburg. And basically, Moravia had all the weaponry, they had the military power. So they was going to just bulldoze their way through Johannesburg. But then members of the Justice Gang referring to Green Lantern and Hawkgirl stopped that. Meanwhile, Superman and Mr. Terrific deals with Ultraman and his squad, and they dealt with Luthor, and they basically closed the black hole. So there you go with that. And of course, Luthor got exposed, and ultimately he got arrested. So there you go with that. So here's the deal. Let me give you guys my thoughts about this movie. There were some funny moments in this movie, some involving a dog, obviously. My issue is how this movie ended. So here's the deal with the black hole fiasco. Those portals created a black hole, and by closing it, stopped the black hole, which is fine. But here's what the problem is. There were people still trapped in that dimension, and the only way to get them out is to reopen the portal. So that means by reopening the portal, you're basically creating or recreating that black hole. So it was never said or shown how they got that out, got those people out of there without another black hole emerging. So it was like, what? How do y'all pull that off? Not to mention the guy that they got to play as Superman, he's not really built to be Superman in my opinion. He's a little bit on the average side. He's not exactly built, you know, like a Superman in my opinion. But outside of that, good movie. Good movie. I had no problem with it, with the story. So it was cool. But yeah, there you go with that. Let's move on now to number 6. Jurassic World Rebirth. Yeah, I had to watch this one. It's another Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World, whichever you want to call it. But yeah, I had to watch it. So the production companies involved were Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment, and this was distributed by Universal Pictures. So this one came out on June the 17th at the Leicester Square, and it came out July the 2nd all throughout the US. So this one is an interesting one. So basically, the deal with this story is this. There was this one guy who wanted to go there, and if memory serves it correctly, I believe he wanted to pick up some items that were only on this one island where these crazy dinosaurs would be at. So here's the deal. He got a bounty hunter and a doctor to roll with him. And of course, the bunny hunter had to get her scribe. Her scribe went as well. And near the waters, there was a family. It was like the father, his 2 daughters, and one of his daughters' boyfriend, who was like, if you would have saw him, you would have thought he was an asshole. Like, if you would have saw this dude at the start of the movie, you thought he was an asshole. So there's that. So they go to the island to get, I think they wanted the eggs. I think they were wanting some eggs. The items that they need, I think they wanted eggs. And they go there. Obviously, they had issues. They get stuck on the island. So now they had to call health while they trying to get these eggs. Meanwhile, the family's there trying to, rendezvous with them so they can all leave it together. And there's some mutated dinosaurs there as well, not to mention some actual real ones. And at the end of it, obviously some of the people lost their lives. The family remained intact though. The family remained intact. The doctor remained intact. The bounty hunter remained intact. And the only person who didn't remain intact, like outside the member of the squad that knew the bounty hunter, and the guy who wanted to go there to begin with, like he's done too. He was done too. So my only complaint about this movie is that we did not see enough action with the dinosaurs, unfortunately. I was hoping to see that T-Rex, because there was a T-Rex in the movie. I'm hoping to see that T-Rex go against that main dino villain, which is like a mutated version of a T-Rex. So I was hoping to see those two collide, and that would have been an epic battle right there. But unfortunately, we did not get that. There was some character development with the boyfriend, so that was cool. So again, he went from being an asshole to, okay, he surprised me. That's nice. There was some funny moments in the movie, and there was this one black guy who went with them, and they made it look like he died near the end of the movie, but he actually survives. So that was cool. That was cool. So Jurassic World Rebirth was a good movie. It wasn't the best movie in the franchise. To me, that's going to be part 1, part 2, and part 3. Those 3 were the best ones right there. Everything that follows was still good movies, but to me, they cannot match the first 3, in my opinion. Okay, let's move on to number 5, F1. So we got the racing game. So it's also known as F1 the movie. So, and I'm gonna warn you, this is a long movie. This was a really long movie. We talking about 155 minutes. So this is over 2 hours. This is this is 2.5 hours long, which is crazy for a sports film. Now, the production companies involved, and there was a lot of them. We got Apple Studios, Jerry Bruckheimer Films, Plan B Entertainment, Monolith Pictures, and Dawn Apollo Films. And it was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures and, of course, Apple Original Films. So this joint came out June the 16th at Radio City, and then came out June the 27th all throughout the US. So, what's the deal here? So we got an aging former F1 prodigy, Sonny Hayes, who spent the last 30 years living as a racer for hire following a career in the crash at the 1993 Spanish Grand Prix that have left him burdened by the failure to live up to his potential. So he won the 24-hour of Daytona. He is approached by his former teammate, Ruben Carvenes, who is the owner of a struggling APX GP F1 team, who asked him to be their second driver. Rubin explains that unless APXGP wins one of the 9 remaining Grand Prix of the season, his investors will sell the team. Sony reluctantly agrees after Rubin insists that victory will prove he is the best in the world. Sony meets the team, including technical director Kate McKinnon and ambitious rookie Joshua Pierce. Joshua's fear of the failing LPX-GP could derail his career and aims to attract interest from another team. Sony struggles with the modern F1 machinery, but quickly diagnosed APX-GP's weaknesses, proposing that the vehicles be upgraded with enhanced aerodynamics to compensate for their speed disadvantage. At the British Grand Prix, Sony and Joshua, despite them being on the same team, competed against each other rather than cooperating, resulting in both crashing out. Acknowledging the team's need to secure a points finish, Sony exploits the rules at the Hungarian Grand Prix by deliberately colliding with rivals to trigger safety car periods. This allowed Joshua to close the gap to the front runners and secure HPXGP's first top 10 finish. During the rain-affected Italian Grand Prix, Sony advises Joshua to remain on slick tires, trading grip for speed and elevating him to second place. However, he ignores Sony's instruction to wait for a straight before overtaking Max. Max, we just gonna call him Max. I'm not gonna try to pronounce his last name. And then Sony skids off the tracks and his car bursts into flames. Sony rescues him, but Joshua is injured and misses the next 3 races. Joshua's mother and the press criticize Sony's high-risk approach. He performs well during Joshua's absence using Kate's new vehicle upgrades. And increasing arrogant Joshua returns at the Belgian Grand Prix and deliberately forces Sony into a crash. Afterwards, Sony criticized him for foolishly setting the team back for personal glory. Seeking to ease tensions, Kate organized a poker game to highlight their similar backgrounds. Afterwards, Sony and Kate spent the night together. He later admits to her that he races to recapture the rare moments when he felt untouchable. When he feels untouchable, rather. Following an anonymous tip alleging Kate's car upgrades are illegal, APX-GP is forced to remove them, leaving the team at a disadvantage. Frustrated and realizing he has skipped his ritual of having a random playing card with him in the cockpit, Sony drives recklessly during the Las Vegas Grand Prix and crashes. While he recovers, Rubin discovers that Sony's 1993 injury left him medically unfit for F1, with risk of blindness or death, and fires him from his own safety. However, the APX-GP board member Peter Bennett then admits to Sony that he orchestrated both his signing and the anonymous tip to sabotage the team and force its sale, offering Sony significant compensation to let APX-GP fail. Meanwhile, Joshua begins applying Sony's racing techniques, admits faults for his earlier crash, and recommissions him to the team. Considering his blurred vision and headaches, Sony persuaded Rubin to let him return, just as the FIA clears Kate and restores her upgrades. So basically, at the season end Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Joshua battles Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, how you pronounce his name, for the lead. After Sony is caught in a minor crash, the race is red flag, allowing APX-GP to repair both cars before a 3-lap sprint to the finish. On the restart, Sony overtakes Charles and sacrifices his own chance of victory by holding off Hamilton so Joshua can move into first. On the final lap, Hamilton and Joshua collided, clearing the way for Sony to take his first F1 win and secure APX-GP's future. Joshua is offered a seat with Mercedes but declines as the team celebrates. Sony quietly prepares to leave, partying on good terms with Joshua and promising to see Kate soon. Sometime later, he lines up for the Baja 1000, whereas what he's racing for, Sony Labs. So, long movie if I do say so myself. And here's the thing. The story makes sense. The poker game was needed to get the two teammates on the same page. I have little issues with them introducing. Now, there was some issues there, but it's a small amount of issues that I have with it, but it's still there. I had a little bit of issues with them introducing the main villain, who was the owner of the APX-GP team. So, because they introduced him near the end of the movie. I felt like he should have been there near the beginning of the movie, not near the end of the movie. So, that's why I was like, what the heck? So I didn't like that. I did not like that at all. So yeah, in case you wondering, that was not the owner, but a board member by the name of Peter Banning. I did not like the fact that they introduced him near the end of the movie as opposed to near the beginning of the movie. But aside from that, great movie. Even though it's a long movie, great movie nonetheless. Let's move on now to number 4. How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, this is a live action remake of the animated version of How to Train Your Dragon. So the production company is involved with Universal Pictures, DreamWorks Animation, obviously, and Mark Platt Productions, and it was distributed by Universal Pictures. This joint came out on April the 2nd at CinemaCon and on June the 13th all throughout the US. Now, before I get into the story, I'm going to let you guys know right here, right now, I did not see the original film. I did not see any of the How to Train Your Dragon movies prior to this one. So I know little to nothing about this franchise or anything like that. The only reason why I was interested in seeing the movie because of how it looked. Like, I'm like, yo, this joint looks dope as heck. So I gotta watch that. So I'm not gonna go over the story because if you've seen the original, I believe it's more or less the same. So the story makes sense. I could not find any faults in it. The small issue, this is a tiny issue that I have with this movie, is when the rest of the trainees were becoming friends with their respective dragons. I felt that it went a bit too quick, somewhat of a realistic issue that I have with it. Outside of that, the graphics of the landscape was great, but I wanted more of it. I'll be honest, I was hoping they would show off more of the landscape that was, involved with this movie, because the graphics, the landscape was dope. It was really, really dope, if I do say so myself. Great movie. If you haven't seen this version, I'll probably say go watch it. So there you go with that. Now, let's move on to number 3. Fantastic Four, First Step. Okay, so this joint was done by Marvel Studios. That's the production company, obviously. And it was distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, obviously. This joint came out July the 21st at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. And then 4 days later, it was released all throughout the US. Okay, so what's this movie about? So at this point, the Fantastic Four is already a thing. It's already established. So it wasn't much that went into the creation of the Fantastic Four. Like, it was there, but, it was more like in a flashback form. So, now, by the way, they are on Earth 828 in 1964, by the way. So, and this is the 4th anniversary of the Fantastic Four. So now we got the Silver Surfer showing up, who is a woman in this case. And they got to deal with Galactus. Galactus wants the baby because they was like, yo, the baby got some really dope powers. He's going to take over in my place. So they want the baby. And the Fantastic Four was placed in a position where either they give up their baby or Galactus shows up and basically eat the planet. He eat planets. And instead, they fight Galactus. And at the end of it all, they managed to send him through a portal and they sent him far away from the planet. Which brings up an issue that I have with it. Now, originally I had 2 issues, but luckily when I posted this on Twitter, a friend of mine actually cleared that up for me, the first issue. Now, the second issue is this. They never killed Galactus, which I want to say the Fantastic Four is never capable of doing that. It was always like they try to compromise with them or they send them far away, which was the case here. Now, my thing is, do they come up with a plan for future generations for when he returns? Like, do they have a contingency plan for when Galactus returns? Because he's going to come back. So that was never explored in this movie. Now, those were really nitpicks, but I really like this movie. This, in my opinion, was the best Fantastic Four movie of all time. Even though I didn't see the one that came out prior to this, which was many, many, many years ago. But I really like this one. This one might be in the best Fantastic Four movie of the year. Now, let's get on to number 2. Thunderbolts. This is the best superhero. Well, yeah. This is the best superhero movie of the year. And this joint came out with the production company involved in the form of Marvel Studios. And it was distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, obviously. So this joint came out April the 22nd at the Signwood Leicester Square. And it came out May the 2nd all throughout the US. Okay. So what this movie is about. So basically in Kuala Lumpur, the sister of Black Widow, she destroys a laboratory on behalf of CIA Director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who is attempting to destroy any evidence of her involvement with the OXE Group's Century superhero project. As De Fontaine faces imminent impeachment for her work with OXE Group, she dispatches Black Widow's sister, John Walker, who is U.S. agent, Ava Starr, and Antonia Dreykhoff all operatives who have worked for her to a covert OXC facility with orders to kill each other. In the ensuing fight, Ava kills Antonia while an anemic man named Bob is released from a suspended animation pod in the womb. After realizing that they were sent by Dave Fontaine to be incinerated along with any evidence of her misconduct, they worked together to escape from the trap. Upon calling into physical contact with Bob, what's her name? We got Yelena, that's her name. Black Widow sister Yelena. Okay, I can't pronounce her name. And Walker briefly experienced visions of some of their worst memories. Dave Fontaine learns that the group have survived and that Bob was a presumed dead volunteer in the Century trials. When she arrives at the site, Bob created a diversion by drawing enemy fire, allowing the other three to escape. Bob sustains no injuries upon being shot, uncontrollably ascends to the air, crash lands back at the compound, and is captured and transported to the former Avengers Tower in Manhattan, which is interesting. Now renamed the Watchtower. Dave Fontaine intends to introduce Bob to the press as a superpower protector akin to the Avengers, hoping the PR stuff will avert her impeachment. Meanwhile, Yelena's father figure, what's his name? The Red something, I forgot his name. We're gonna call him Red. Who overhears details of Dave Fontaine's plot while working as a freelance chauffeur, rescues the three, and then Walker referred to the group as the Thunderbolts, inspired by Yelena's childhood soccer team. Congressman Bucky Barnes, so yeah, Bucky, or the Winter Soldier, is still thought about what happened by Dave Fontaine's assistant Mel. He captures the Thunderbolts and intends to have them testify in the impeachment proceedings. When Mel expressed concern about Bob, Barnes takes the group to New York City to infiltrate the Watchtower. The Thunderbolts discover that Dave Fontaine has convinced Bob to join her and became the superhero Sentry. Bob easily overpowers the Thunderbolts, but he ignores Dave Fontaine's order to kill them and allow them to retreat, believing that they are not a threat to him. Developing a godlike delusion of superiority, Bob turns on Dave Fontaine and is incapacitated by Mel using a fail-safe kill switch. This triggers the emergence of the Void, Bob's destructive alter ego, and the embodiment of his depression and insecurities, which had been amplified by the Sentry procedure. The Void begins to engulf New York City in supernatural darkness, trapping citizens in visions of their own traumatic memories. So, realizing that the only way to stop the Void is from within, Yelena enters the darkness to reach Bob's consciousness. Yeah, not subconsciousness, but consciousness. Okay. She faces her haunted past as a Black Widow and finds Bob hiding in a recreation of his childhood bedroom where he hid from his abusive father. The other Thunderbolts join them, and together they face up with Bob's various traumas and drug addiction until they reach his memory of the Sentry procedure in the Kuala Lumpur laboratory. They find the Void and are swift overpowered. Bob's attempt to fight back threatens to consume him completely until the Thunderbolts hug Bob and affirm their belief in him, empowering him to regain control and overcome the Void. Light returns to the city and the victims are free. With the threat of the Void neutralized, the Thunderbolts prepare to apprehend Dave Fontaine, but she manipulates public perception by staging a press conference in which she introduced the team as the new Avengers and take credit for their actions. The group goes along with the announcement, but Yelena quietly tells Dave Fontaine, "We own you now." And they okay, now I'm not gonna talk about the post scene. So, because now the new Avengers, they might be in a feud with Sam Wilson, again, the new Captain America, who apparently has his own Avengers squad. So there you go with that. Now, the story was simple. And we got a glimpse of the Sentry and the Void in this one, which is cool. But at the end of this movie, their powers are gone for now. So that's kind of interesting. Because they would have been too OP. So they just like took Bob's powers. He's now just Bob. Now, the second end credit is very interesting. But overall, this movie was great. The story works and it's very funny. So, very good movie, I say so myself. It's not the best movie of the year. But before we get to that, let's get to some honorable mentions. And really, there's only one. And that would be Karate Kid Legends. So, this joint came out with the production company involved being Columbia Pictures and Sunswept Entertainment, and this was distributed by Sony Pictures Releasings. So this joint came out on May the 7th at the Cinepolis Miltica, and it came out May the 30th all throughout the US. Now, I'm not going to go over what this movie is about. Instead, what I will say is this. While this is a good movie, there were some flaws. For starters, there was not enough rather was there to convince the mom, because in this movie, the main character had an older brother, but he ended up getting killed. And I forgot if it's because if his younger brother was involved, but I don't remember in what way, in what manner. So because of that, his mom did not want her son to fight. And not only that, they moved him out of China. I think it was China. I don't remember where they were at originally, but I want to say either China. It wasn't Japan. It was either China or Korea somewhere. I don't remember where. But so basically, she was never a fan of him fighting, a fan of him training or anything like that. But obviously, what ended up happening is he ended up fighting in New York, taking part in tournaments, while his mom never supported this. However, like out the blue, she all of a sudden just supports his son's fighting. And I'm like, where did this come from? What convinced the mom to support her son fighting? What happened? Nothing happened. Not much happened. Now, also, more time spent on the beginning, by the way. So it was like, this would have been a longer movie in that case, but there was not enough time spent on the training, which was spread between the tournament, which is kind of unrealistic, as this is a high school student who also had a job in New York. So we talking about, now granted, he already knew how to fight, but he had to stop. So then he had to he had to restart his training while being in a tournament, while going to high school. So it's like, what the heck? While having a job. And not to mention, he was also taking part in extra tutoring. So he was receiving extra tutoring as well. And not to mention, he was taking a beating due to the training and had to be at 100% for each round. All of that is unrealistic. Now, the girlfriend was never told what happened to his older brother. I felt that was important so she could get a better understanding of him. And there was a scenario involving a gang. One of the girlfriend, father, like to pay them money. What happened with the gang that wanted the money? What happened? Did they leave them alone after receiving the money? And aside from the headband to a small degree, the fighting styles being passed on, there was not much of a connection between the previous Karate Kid movies and the newest one. So that's why this was really an honorable mention. Now, we all know what the #1 movie of the year is. We should all know what it is. So let's get into it. Number 1. K-pop Demon Hunters. This movie is too good. This movie is way too good. So, the production company involved here was Sony Pictures Animations, and it was distributed by Netflix. And this one came out June the 20th. Now, I'm not going to go over the plot because I want to say the majority of you guys seen this movie already. You should have heard about this movie already, but y'all should have seen it. Now, what I will say is this. Like I said, this movie is way too good. It's extremely hilarious. And I can see why people rewatch this. I find myself rewatching this as well. So, there you go with that. And though it's not perfect, as I wish they spent more time on the part where the bad guys are on the path to victory, that was kind of short. Also, I wish the aunt could fight as well. Because, like, the leader of the group had an aunt who knew about what they was really doing and stuff like that. I wish she could have fought in this movie. Now, whether she died or not, it is what it is. But I wish she could have fought in this movie. So, but aside from all that, phenomenal movie. And I actually find myself rewatching it from time to time. So it was a fantastic movie. I liked it. It's the #1 movie of the year without question. Okay, so I'm gonna call it a wrap now. And with all that said, y'all know this is this boy New J Gatsby, aka New Stimulate Smilk, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.